Hey everybody, Ragnarok here, back with another chess video on one of my games that I've played. It's actually from a tournament that I just participated in last weekend, the US Amateur Team event in the East Coast. It's the largest event, I believe, at least this year, or maybe in the last couple of years, where it was over 1,500 people were there, 300 plus teams. And this is actually a picture I took from the event. We were in the main room. There were actually a lot of different rooms where we could have played in, but we did pretty good. As a team, we won 4 out of 6 games. Myself, I won 5 out of 6, so I want to share all 6 of my games over the next few weeks with you guys. It's actually 2 of my teammates, 2200 player and 1800 player here, playing a lot of, she was playing a kid, and this kid was really, really good. A lot of the top boards had really young kids too, so it just shows you that any age, any background, who knows, everybody can have a good chance at being a great chess player. So I'm going to go over my game here, and we're going to continue with what I've been doing with the Yugoslav Attack, as well as the Dragon, or the Sicilian Dragon. And this game I actually played as black with the Dragon, but this was my 6th round where I won, and then my 5th round I also played as white with the Yugoslav Attack. So I'll record that video for you guys next Monday. So here is the game. Let me just switch back real quick to the game here. Where's my thing? Hold on. There we go. All right, cool. So let's see. I have it from black's perspective here. So e4, c5, knight f3, and then d6. This is just a standard opening. And according to the engine, this is just a regular dragon. I know I've been saying the accelerated dragon, but accelerated dragon I would have probably played g6 after this exchange here. Or instead of moving my d pawn, sorry. So then she goes, this is actually a girl I was playing, she goes with d4 next, standard, c takes d4, knight takes d4, then I go with g6 right away. And just interesting, I haven't seen anybody really play this against me, but something that people can do against this is the Marozzi bind, where you would play c4. So I'm actually going to be looking into that because it did come up in just some games when we were analyzing it. Nobody ever played it against me, but I have seen it in blitz games, so something to think about. I played g6. Now this was an interesting variation where she actually played bishop b5 check. And I have a couple options. I really can only block right here, because if I block here, let's say I went here or something, there's a really nasty trick where you just trade and then all of a sudden I'm down material. So you want to avoid that. So with bishop b5, you kind of have to make a choice. Do you want to bring your knight out? I actually opted for the bishop because my knight really wants to come here and attack the center. So I'd be better off than if my knight were here. Plus I can't move it for at least 3 moves. I would have to bring my bishop out, bring my knight out, and then castle before I can move this knight. So why not just attack back with the bishop? Kind of almost forcing her to trade, because why did she come out here to check me in the first place? And then I take back with queen because, again, my knight wants to come here. Now it's interesting to note in this scenario, her bishop is now not able to be a part of the attack. It usually likes to be here on c4, attacking the f2 or f7 square. But in this variation, when I play the dragon, I don't usually use that bishop. It usually kind of sits here on c7, so it's kind of like a weird variation. It's not absolutely unplayable, but when I saw that, I was kind of like, okay, I'm still going to continue what I want to do here with the dragon, develop my bishop, bring my knight out, get this knight into the center square, which I go for, but it's just my pieces are a little bit off. And now my queen's off the back rank too, so that's going to connect my rooks right away once I castle. So then knight comes out to c3, bishop g7, bishop to e3, that's how you know it's the Yugoslav Attack. And then I come out with knight to f6, attempting to move here. I'm still protecting the square with my bishop now instead of my queen instead of my bishop, as it would normally be there, so I can attack the bishop on e3. So she prevents that with f3 standard. I bring my knight out just to move before castling. I want to attack the center, kind of see what she does here, and she ends up bringing her knight back, which is standard. All 4 of these squares are protected by these 2 knights, so pretty powerful place for them to be. This knight really doesn't want to go back here anyway, so this pawn structure, as I've seen or mentioned in my other videos, these pawns want to start coming forward. But I don't really give her a chance to do that in this game. Now I come here because traditionally you want to come here with your queen. So this square, now that the bishop is gone, is available. So I wanted to jump there first. And if she were to push here, well then I've got this square and really a nice attack on the center and this bishop. So I think that would have been better for me if she did that. So that kind of forces her to bring her queen to e2, which is a little awkward. I mean, it does now protect what the bishop didn't. She has some ideas of checking me, and then let's just say I did a random move. She could potentially check me, and then this is kind of a little dangerous for me because I could probably try to protect this and then this piece falls. I didn't really want to go into that scenario, so I just opted out of that. I decided to just castle right away. So now if she brought the queen here, I don't necessarily have to take. If she did this, I probably would just maybe go here or something. This square is defended by my knight, so she can't quite attack me yet. Plus, this piece could also be hanging. But then you have to watch out for that. So I'd probably take this first, no matter what she takes back with, maybe do that. This could be hanging, this is hanging, kind of force you to castle this way where you want to castle the other way. A couple variations there. So instead of all that, she just castled queenside, which is, again, standard. The only difference is now this rook is on the same file as my queen. So I'm a little nervous because her knight could potentially come in here, try to maybe just be a little uncomfortable, really just not the greatest place. So I'm thinking I want to get my queen off that line. And I know that eventually I want to be on the C file as well because of this potential attack. So I go to queen c6, knowing that her next move, not really forced. She does come back in here, but now she's moved this knight a couple of times. Came from once to here, into the center on d4, back over to b3, and then back to d4 again. So 4 times. And I just move up, potentially trading queens, because if she trades here, I got an attack on this strong bishop. Kind of has to go here, because if he goes anywhere off the file, I mean, this could potentially be good. I've got some ideas coming in here. I just kind of like my position. This knight's in a really good square. So I go for offer the queen trade, but instead she goes and eventually does get her queen where it wants to be, so that the bishop can come in here and trade off my very strong g7 bishop. So I just get my rooks on the same file as the king. Now that this knight is blocking the bishop, this pawn is no longer hanging, so I can safely move my rook. She comes in here, and typically I don't usually mind. Now, even if I did trade, she doesn't have an immediate attack on me. She's at least a few moves away from bringing these pawns up. This knight's kind of out of place. There's no immediate threat here, so I could safely take. It does bring the queen away, because my whole goal, if we go back a move, is to get this queen and this knight off of this file, because both of these pieces are protecting the c2 square. And now all I really have to do is get this knight to move, and I've got this queen potentially checkmating on c2. So my whole goal was to get these two to move. So I could potentially take there, but then again, I do kind of want to clear these knights so that maybe my bishop can come in as well. That could also get rid of this defender. So that's my idea, what I'm thinking. So my knight does come back. Now I could potentially move here, which could move the knight off the file, but I do still have to move the queen and the knight first. So she trades, I take back with my king, and then she moves. So one defender gone. That was the whole idea of knight c6. Now, of course, this can move right now, the knight on c3, because I'm not threatening checkmate yet. 1, the queen's defending, and 2, my knight's now in the way of my rook to come up. So I just bring my other rook over, kind of starting to attack the center, and also bring my rook on the same file as her queen. And now this, I believe, is her biggest mistake in the game, because this f3 pawn was protecting the center, where my knight could have come in. Now that she's moved that, I have this potential square I can move to. And again, it's going to move that knight off of that square. So I just push the pawn, because there are some ideas here. I kind of went over them a little bit after the game. I think if she takes here, I've got some potential sacks coming in here where I can maybe take back here. I've got some nice attacks here. I could even, let me see if I can remember. I think probably the best move would be to bring my knight here, threatening to take the a2 pawn with check, where my queen would come in here and threaten checkmate. Because in the Yugoslav Attack, when you have this little barricade, it's nice to know that if you can get your queen up on this file, on the a1 square, it is checkmate right away. So you do have that threat in the back of your mind. And the same idea, this knight is also attacking. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. I could take back that pawn as well. And then I've got this open file. It's just very strong. I'm starting to remove the defenders very soon. So if we go back, she actually played e5 instead, which I'm not too upset about, because I bring my knight in anyway, which again was the reason why f3 was moving to f4 was not really the best move. So now I'm removing the defender. She takes with the knight. I take back with the pawn, opening up this file. Now I've got both rooks on the same file as the queen and the king. All I really have to do now is, because the queen has to move away from this square, all I have to do is bring my knight in. So there we go. I've removed 1 defender, 2 defenders, and the third that was blocking the checkmate. So now all I have to do is move this knight out of the way, and then I've got checkmate threats. So I come up here. Again, double threat. One, we've got checkmate in one move, so she can't do anything like this because it's checkmate right away. She can't really, I think if she goes here, let's see, there are some threats. I could probably just take this. Yeah, it can't take back because of checkmate. So if I go there, check, this just completely opens up the king. I mean, if she goes here, I could probably do a rook lift, even just kind of sack this. I believe this is probably mate. Yeah, checkmate. She probably would be forced to take this here. Just a superior game. I've got this pawn hanging, this rook. You know, maybe I wouldn't have gone about it that way. Kind of depends. But that didn't actually happen. But I would have had a much better position. I mean, this pawn is also passed. So that could have been really good. Now the rooks would have been disconnected in that line. So if we go back to the main line, again, so you can't block here with this piece. If you go here, I'm probably just going to take that right away, because if you take back, it's checkmate. So just really reducing the amount of defenders on here. I don't see another way except for the move that she did to block, which is c3. So c3 now allows my queen to come in here. This knight cannot be taken because it's on file with the rook. So now the king only has 0 squares to go to. So that's where I'm threatening that checkmate that I was telling you about before. So that's why I take that right away. She has to bring her knight up because now this is giving the king an escape square once I check. So I do check. King has to go there. I take the A2 pawn, B2 pawn with check, kind of forcing the king to go sorry, D1 or E1, because yeah, that's the only move. The knight can't come back because it's pinned by the rook, so she has to go up here. And at this point, I'd actually calculated everything out. I wrote down all my moves because we had to take notation, and everything is pretty much forced. The only thing that's not forced is the next move, but I do. There's actually a little tactic here if you guys want to take a few seconds to look at it. Find the best move for black. If you found it, awesome. I take the knight with the rook on D5, D4. Because if you think about it, rook takes, I've got this nasty fork on all 3 pieces. If queen takes, same exact thing. And then if pawn takes, same idea. So that rook is immune, cannot be taken. So the really only thing she could do here is take my knight, which does force the next 3 moves. So I take the rook with check. King can't move anywhere, he has to take. Now I check here first. If the king comes up here, let's actually, there's only 2 moves really. The king comes here, I've got checkmate right away. Can't move because this pawn was never taken, just because the queen was under attack earlier. And then the only way you can go is here, check. Queen has to block, take with check, king takes back, rook is hanging, and suddenly I'm up an entire queen and every piece is off the board, every minor and major piece that is. And she just had a moment where she hung her head because that was all pretty much forced, which was really, really nice on my part. And just a few moves, we'll just play them out. She just kind of decided, I'm going to play it out, check, I come up here, and we have a nice little checkmate in the middle of the board. So that was my game 6, where I did finish the tournament 5-1, which is really good. Placed 113th out of 1,377 people, I believe. My rating actually only went up a little bit. I'm a little bit underrated, I think. I was 1541 when I started. I'm 1599. So now I can play in some under 1,600 tournaments, where I think I play at like a 2,000 level. You guys let me know what you think of my games that I've recorded in the past. But let me know if you'd like to see any other specific games. I will be uploading the next few weeks on Mondays my next 5 games from the tournament. I'll definitely upload that 1 loss as well. It's always good to look at the losses. The guy I lost to was 2107 or something, I believe. But yeah, a really, really fun tournament. We did an awesome job, and check out the next week's video where I'll be going over where I played white in the Yugoslav Attack. And then we'll move on to some other openings I played. 2 games playing the King's Indian Defense, which I like to play against D4, the Queen's Pawn opening. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next Monday.